Oh, come in, come in. Come in, nice to see you. I'm about to ascend the perilous journey up the library steps again. I'm up here. This is my nice edition of the Tolkien. I just want only one very quick. Yeah, I've taken the dust sheets off because I found when I've got the dust covers on, I can't fit them back in. I rather like this red as well because it's very much like the ones my parents had. Anyway, I've got something really exciting to share with you and show you, but I wanted to accompany it with the right bit of reading, so I'm getting down the Fellowship of the Ring. But so this is quite exciting for me anyway. As you know, I love smoking pipes. It's just a relaxing thing. Because the nice thing about pipe smoking, when I was a younger man, I smoked cigarettes, and I've given that up. Because, of course, you inhale those, but pipes, you just taste the tobacco. Anyway, as you know, I love pipes, and I like Peace and Irish pipes particularly, and I have quite a few of them. But I've become aware, really, in the last, 10, 20 years, there's been a great... pipe smoking has revived, and it's revived as a real antidote to the frenetic rush and hyperness of modern society, and people just want to be quiet, to be still, to be measured, and it kind of encourages intimacy and conversation, and wonderful. Anyway, out of that recovery of pipes, there's arisen a whole movement of artisan pipe makers. So instead of it being, pipes, lots of pipes made together in a factory, you get a single craftsman. And some of these artisan pipes are amazingly beautiful, and they're very highly priced. I've always thought they're rather beyond me. I haven't got a pipe where you can say, or hadn't until now, got a pipe and where you could say, one person made this. But anyway, I've corresponded occasionally with people who love that world. And then to my surprise, quite some time ago, I got an email from a man called Jason Patrick who makes beautiful pipes. He does other things too, in fact. He's a pastor, as I am, and also a photographer. But he wrote to me and saying, he enjoyed the things I've written and read about pipe smoking, and he said, oh well, I quite like to make you a pipe, and I thought, I was thinking, well, can I afford it? But then it was clear he was, just wanting to make me a pipe, just as a way of thank you for all the poems and literature that I'd made. And he talked about the idea of having a Sabbath with your hands. He said, when you work with your mind, as I do, it's quite nice to have something you just do with your hands. And he taught himself pipe making skills. So he showed me some photos of pipes he'd made, and they were exquisite. So he said, well, let's talk about what kind of pipe you would have. And I said, well, I like a round bowl. I like those round apple-shaped bowl. I like a bit of a curve in the stem, but really I would leave it up to you. So then he explained, now I think at this point, well, he made and sent me a pipe, and it arrived in this little tube thing, and I took it out, and it had this beautiful bag. It says Jason Patrick on it. But this is, let me just show you this. It's absolutely exquisite. But it's not simply, here it is, look, it's a really beautiful thing. Particularly if you look at that part of it, where the way that's what they call tiger stripe, the grain on the thing is absolutely superb. He's obviously a craftsman who's really looked at and understood the piece of briar, the piece of wood that he's got, and really made it. But he said, well, one of the poems I like of yours is your poem about the Trinity, about we were made by a triune poet, and Trinity is so he said, I'm going to make a three-sided shank there. And then he said, I know you like ancient things and things that survive. So this is a piece of, surviving, if you like, woolly mammoth tusk that he's obviously got hold of somewhere, that he's made this ivory part with here. And then he's got the shape of the bowl just as I like it. And it's really lovely the way this curve completely reflects and balances that curve. And that's just to do with the idea of sheer beauty. Anyway, I thought you might be calling around, so I thought I'd keep it and actually fire it up for the first time while you're here. So, but this is the one and only artisan pipe that I've ever owned. And it's lovely that it comes as a gift, and a thoughtful gift. And it's lovely to think that there is no other pipe in the world quite like this one. And it's a nice sort of quite short little pipe, so I needn't, I'm having a shorter pipe smoking session. So I'm going to put some Kendal Black Cherry in it. And then I thought, well, what can I read to you? I've already read to you my own poems on pipe smoking and my essay on pipe smoking, but I thought I'll read the little bit on the lore of pipe smoking, the little note on it in The Lord of the Rings, the pipeweed and the hobbits. And I thought it was in one of the appendices, and therefore, in a sense, in the voice of Tolkien, but it's actually in the kind of prologue to the Fellowship of the Ring. And it's a lovely little piece, and clearly as written by a hobbit, one of the protagonists, I presume, Frodo himself, or possibly Sam afterwards, and because it mentions a wizard I knew. Anyway, let's have the sacred moment. Here it is in all its glory. So, I'm very, very grateful to Jason Patrick, and lovely to think of that my little bit of making where I try to craft a poem so that it has beautiful form and a bit of symmetry and all of those things, which takes a while to get a new pipe going. That can be reflected. Everybody in their own art form with their own artistry. Lovely. I shall just... Anyway, I thought let's read something which is kind of probably something of Tolkien's view refracted through. So the prologue has an article concerning hobbits, you may remember. It's the first thing. And the very second thing is... it's lovely, this. Concerning pipeweed. There is another astonishing thing about hobbits of old that must be mentioned, an astonishing habit. They imbibed or inhaled through pipes of clay or wood the smoke of the burning leaves of a herb, which they called pipeweed or leaf, a variety probably of Nicotiana. A great deal of mystery surrounds the origin of this peculiar custom or art, as the hobbits preferred to call it. I love that. Art. It is indeed an art. You just have to keep a thing going with a completely new pipe. Art, as the hobbits preferred to call it. All that could be discovered about it in antiquity was put together by Meriadoc Brandybuck, later Master of Buckland, and since he and the tobacco of the South Farthing play a part in the history that follows, his remarks in the introduction to his Herb Lore of the Shire may be quoted. So it's Merry who's speaking this. So this is Merry writing it down long after the story is over. This, he says, is the one art that we can certainly claim to be our own invention. When hobbits first began to smoke is not known. All the legends and the family histories take it for granted. For ages, folk in the Shire smoked various herbs, some fouler, some sweeter. But all accounts agree that Tobold Hornblower of Longbottom in the South Farthing first grew the true pipeweed in his garden in the days of Isengrim II, about the year 1070 of Shire reckoning. The best homegrown still comes from that district, especially the varieties known as Long Bottom Leaf, Old Toby and Southern Star. And if I'm not mistaken, there are some tobacconists who actually have used those or very similar names for their own mixes. How Old Toby came by the plant is not recorded, for to his dying day he would not tell. He knew much about herbs, but he was no traveller. It is said that in his youth he often went to Bree, though he certainly never went further from the Shire than that. It's thus quite possible that he learned of this plant in Bree, where now at any rate it grows well on the south slopes of the hill. The Bree hobbits claim to have been the first actual smokers of the pipeweed. They claim, of course, to have done everything before the people of the Shire, whom they refer to as colonists. But in this case their claim is, I think, likely to be true. And certainly it was from Bree that the art of smoking the genuine weed spread in the recent centuries among dwarves and other such folk, rangers, wizards or wanderers, as still passed to and fro through that ancient road meeting. The home and centre of the art is thus to be found in the old Inn of Bree, the prancing pony. It has been kept by the family of Butterbur from time beyond record. All the same, observations that I have made in my own many journeys south, a wonderfully understated way of talking about his part in the epic quest of the ring, my only many journeys south, have convinced me that the weed itself is not native to our parts of the world, but came northward from the lower Anduin, whither it was, I suspect, originally brought over sea by the men of Westerness. So that's very going with the Númenóreans. It grows abundantly in Gondor, and there is richer and larger than in the north, where it is never found wild and flourishes only in warm sheltered places like Longbottom. The men of Gondor call it sweet galenus and esteem it only for the fragrance of its flowers. From that land it must have been carried up the Greenway during the long centuries between the coming of Elendil and our own days. But even the Dunedain of Gondor allow us this credit. Hobbits first put it into pipes. Not even wizards thought of that before we did. Then this lovely, though one wizard that I knew took up the art long ago and became as skillful in it as in all other things that he put his mind to. A very beautiful oblique reference to Gandalf. Going out altogether. Oh, it smokes really sweetly, this pipe. We've got very fresh tobacco in it, so it needs a bit of relighting, but it gives me great pleasure. And I think that's part of the whole pleasure of pipe smoking, is the beauty of the pipe itself, the stories the pipe may hold, the stories that first got us interested in pipe smoking. When that story is actually personal and you can name the very person who made your pipe, I think it makes it all the more refreshing. So I'm glad you were here to witness the very first firing of this pipe, and it's very comfortable. I get the fragrance twice over because this is quite close to my nose, and I can think of beauty and of the Trinity and of generosity between artists when I smoke it. Anyway, I was glad to share that little moment with you. Nice to see you.